Not a classic game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was intense and had me on the edge of my seat throughout. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. In the captain's run before the game, New Zealand lose their captain Sam Cane to some kind of injury. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it means that he's out of the game. I think if it had been maybe a year ago, some people would have seen it as actually a good thing because he was in poor form then. And, a lot of people thought he was in the team only because he was the captain. But since then, he's really rediscovered form. And it was actually a big blow to New Zealand for him to be out. Vai comes in for him and Papali'i moves to 7 to accommodate Vai. So the game starts then, New Zealand on the attack from the off. They secure an unchallenged line out around about halfway, spread it inside, and then Ioane, he makes a clean break right up the middle of the French defence. Get them into the 22, they win penalty advantage, they go for a cross kick over to Talea, he gathers and touchdown in the corner, and it's the first try of the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Really well played by New Zealand. Mo'unga is off target with the conversion, but it's 5-0 to them. France then respond from the restart. Marchand gets over the ball, wins a penalty for holding on. Ramos makes it 5-3 from the tee. Atmosphere absolutely electric at this game. The crowd, the whole game really were fantastic. New Zealand then, they win a penalty in their own half, but Mo'unga misses touch. We then have a forward pass from Beauden Barrett, which gives France a platform in the New Zealand half from the scrum. So big turnaround there. Could have been New Zealand on attack, but instead it's France. But the ball pops out of the back of the scrum. Aaron Smith, he's on Dupont like a limpet. He did it a few times during the game, just completely closed down the move right at source. France then, they lose Marchand, to some kind of injury. I'm not sure what it was. Hopefully he's back soon, but he's replaced by Mauvaka. And, Marchand felt at that stage going to be a big miss for France because he's definitely up there in the top 3 hookers in the world. France then win a penalty for tackling in the air. Jalabert slices the kick to touch, and France have to build from much further out than maybe they were expecting. Mauvaka then goes quickly from a line out, throws to the front, gets it back, boots it upfield, and goes on the chase. Looks like he was impeded as he was going, for the ball. Crowd baying for a penalty, but also looked like he was trying to buy the penalty from the referee. It comes to nothing. France then, they win a penalty as the group goes to ground in the scrum. It was a big penalty, I felt, because the group was destructive for New Zealand in the Rugby Championship, but Antonio is an absolutely massive unit and he struggled against him for most of the game. Ramos then strokes the penalty over to put France ahead 6-5. We then have a bit of a kicking battle and Ramos drops an easy catch, gives New Zealand a scrum just outside his own 22. New Zealand attack off that scrum. There's some nice interchange in midfield. Gets him deep into 22. Bit of, I think Joe Smith's kind of set piece or set moves kind of influence on the team, I think, there to get them into position. Forwards then pick and go to win a couple of meters of the line. It feels like a big period now. New Zealand to get a penalty advantage. Scott Barrett, though, drops the ball in sight of the line. They then contemplate the tap and go, but finally point to the post. Mo'unga puts them back ahead at 8-6. We then have a water break and we can catch our breath because it has been a very breathless start to the game. Not very high on quality for the most part, but certainly, as I said, very intense and both teams really trying to play at very high pace. Then after the restart, Aldrit, he's ahead of the kicker, and it's a scrum back for New Zealand, but then the group gets pinged again, and it's a penalty to France. Ramos splits the post from halfway. France back in the lead, 9-8. New Zealand then come on the attack. The group gets smashed in the tackle. Turnover ball is kicked downfield. Beauden Barrett beats Dupont in a foot race to save, what could have been a possible try. The ball was kind of out towards the touchline, and Barrett ends up being bundled into touch. But still, I think if Dupont had got that ball, maybe it could have been a try. But Beauden Barrett just has that pace to get back there. Line out to France just decided 22. They force a penalty then. Ramos, though, drags his kick across the post from a tough angle. New Zealand then look to threaten. They're looking threatening with ball in hand. France are very aggressive at the breakdown. They're managing to turn over ball. New Zealand then, they're finding gaps in the French defence, and they manage to work it back into the 22, but hands let them down about 10 metres out from the line. Half-time score is 9-8 to France. They're in front, but it's definitely not a comfortable lead for them. France then start the second half on the front foot. Pinot seems to be, going nowhere, crabbing across almost the entire pitch, but then there's a great offload for him. Aldrit is away. He has Dupont in support, but then France infringe at the breakdown 5 metres out from the line. Penalty to New Zealand. New Zealand then strike from there. They get the ball in behind the French defence. There's a pass out to Talea, looking a little bit forward. Some of the French players stop thinking it is, but it's play on, and Talea goes over for his second try. Mwanga misses the conversion, and it's 13-9 to New Zealand. Not sure why we didn't have a TMO review of the pass, and we didn't actually see replays of really any of the controversial decisions or possible controversial decisions, I'll say, that went against France, which is very strange. Generally, home TV director, especially in France as well, you'll see these incidents replayed over and over again to try and get the referee's attention, but we had none of that here at all. But yeah, would have liked to have seen that a little bit more, and certainly have seen a review of it just to confirm that the try was okay. But from here then we have a break from Flamand that gets France back on the front foot, get themselves into 22. They got numbers on the outside. Talea goes for the intercept but knocks it on. This is scrum to France. We have no check to see if it was a deliberate knock on, and we don't get to see a replay, so I can't comment on whether it was or not. For me, I'm just going to trust that the officials got this one right and it was just a knock on. France then bring on Tofi Fanua for Woki to try and add bulk to their scrum. They try to strike off the back of the scrum, but again, Smith closes the pawn down and cuts that attack off at source. New Zealand then turn it over, and it was just great defence from them. I felt, even though New Zealand lost this game, there were still some really good moments from them, both in attack and defence. France then attack off a maul. We have a lovely crossfield kick, puts Pinot into space on the wing. He goes to the line, but then we have a fantastic covering tackle from Mwanga. Dislodges the ball just short of the line. Absolutely epic defence there. France then, they're applying pressure, but crucially at this point, they're not adding to their score. Dupont then gets tackled without the ball in the 22. France decide to kick to the corner. New Zealand disrupt the lineout, but France managed to retain the ball after New Zealand knock it on at the lineout. They work it in the field through kind of one-out carries. Then they sweep back out wide, and Jalabert puts Pinot over in the corner. Ramos converts this one from the touchline. 16-13, France back in the lead. Will Jordan then gets himself a yellow card for taking a man out in the air as he was going for a high kick. It goes to the bunker for review, but for me, the yellow seemed fair. France then, they go field and win themselves another penalty. Ramos misses the penalty to the right from the tee. Never looked like it was going to be on target. Jordan's yellow then is confirmed by the bunker to be only a yellow. We have a water break. It gives New Zealand a chance really to collect themselves because it has been all France in this period. When we resume then, France win a penalty for New Zealand not rolling away. You know, in the lead up to that, there was some good work from the likes of Aldrit and Taufifenua. Ramos makes it 19-13 to France. We then have another lovely cross kick to Talea that puts him into a bit of space on the wing, but he gets isolated. Arthur Vincent gets over the ball and wins a penalty for holding on. France then try to go quick with a crossfield kick of their own deep into the New Zealand 22, but it comes to nothing. But bounce of the ball could have gone the way and it could have been a try. Brody Retallick then comes on for New Zealand. Really good to see him back. Been out for a while with, you know, an injury. New Zealand also back to 15 now. Jalabert then puts a peach of a kick from a mark down the field that bounces on the line inside the New Zealand 22. The assistant starts running back towards the French 22 before Piper reminds him that it was actually from a mark. So we come back to the correct decision of a New Zealand line out in their own 22. Although Dupont was asking if it was a 50-22, but because it's from a mark, obviously it couldn't be. France then, they try to they try to go on attack from here, but doesn't really go to plan for them. But they do win a penalty just on the edge or just inside the 22. Ramos slots this, and France, you know, out beyond the converted try at this stage at 22-13. France then, they win a penalty, and Movaka decides to go quickly. New Zealand almost turned the ball over. Dupont just flings the ball out the back, you know, to try and keep it alive, then kick it in behind the New Zealand defence. Pinot, it's kind of, I think it comes off a New Zealand player, then Pinot knocks it on, and it looks like maybe they've scored, but you know, he does actually knock it on. New Zealand then, they try to run it from their own 22, you know, through Barrett, but then France get in there, they turn the ball over to break down. There's a kick over the top. The bounce this time does favour them. Jaminet claims it and he scores. He then converts his own try for 29-13. At this stage, they have won the game because there's only like a minute or even less than a minute left. New Zealand, they go for a consolation try at the death and, you know, trying to, you know, just get something on the board. Surveyor, he's making good ground. You know, there's a big kind of scrum of players almost forming a maul at this stage, but then the ball is stripped and that's it. The game is over. France win 29-13. Well worth the win, but New Zealand, you know, were decent as well. In terms of the two teams from here, I thought it's a fantastic start to the tournament for France. Dupont was kept, you know, pretty quiet by New Zealand, but the rest of the team really stepped up there. You know, some really good performances from the likes of Aldrit. I thought that Antonio was excellent in the scrum. Struggled a little bit maybe with fitness around the park, but still, you know, was excellent. Marchand, before he went off, was good. Marovaka did well filling in for him as well. Woki too, before he had to go off. You know, Jalabert 10, I thought had a decent game. Pernod looked dangerous. Villiers kind of struggled to get into the game a little bit. Ramos great from the tee. You know, as I said, some really good players stepping up for them. New Zealand, they look good at times. You know, they look like there were times when they were almost breaking that France defence. Like, they really caused France a lot of trouble in defence, but I thought France's scramble as well, when New Zealand did get in behind, was excellent. And, New Zealand, I think they're going to put points on the rest of the teams in this pool, and they're going to be looking very dangerous by the time the quarterfinals come around.